Today on the Perception and Action podcast, sharing some of my experiences as a skill acquisition specialist. Is it really worth a team hiring one? So it's time for a call to action. Hi, this is Rob Gray from Arizona State University. I've been on a now over 25-year journey as a researcher, professor, and high-performance consultant to understand how we acquire and adapt our perceptual motor skills. Welcome to the Perception and Action podcast, where I discuss how psychological research can be applied to improving performance, accelerating skill acquisition, and designing technologies. Now on to the show. Hi everyone, this is Rob Gray coming at you live from spring training in Florida. For the next few episodes, I thought I would just riff on some topics off the top of my head, as I don't have anything prepared beforehand, and give you some of my experiences. In today's episode, what I wanted to do was talk about the concept of a skill acquisition specialist and share some of my thoughts and experiences about doing it. As most of you know, I serve as a skill acquisition specialist part-time now for the Boston Red Sox. That's what I'm here in Florida doing right now. And I just wanted to share some thoughts. This is partially inspired by a few posts I've seen lately on Twitter and on LinkedIn discussing the potential role of a skill acquisition specialist. You know, for example, Sean Mishka from Emergence has really been beating the drum with some posts and sharing some things, you know, expressing his strong opinion that all types of sports teams and across all sports would benefit from hiring one. And there's been a few counter arguments about, you know, the potential benefits of one. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts and express my opinion. Obviously, I'm incredibly biased here because I'm serving as one, but I think I'll have a few good thoughts here. So as I said, Sean's made a few posts suggesting that it would be beneficial for all teams. The two main criticisms I've seen some people post that, you know, they don't think it would be of value. The two main criticisms I've seen is the first one is that the skill acquisition is not clear enough, right? There's not clear enough evidence. There's not definitive. We don't know definitively what the best way to train someone is. So can we really make any clear recommendations about how to do things? We don't have a clear theory. We don't have a clear, you know, model for how to do it. You know, I would express a few points there. You know, first of all, I don't agree with that. Obviously, you know, I think ecological dynamics is a clear model with growing body of evidence. And, you know, I think if you haven't ever tried applying some of this work and applying research in this kind of setting, I think you should, right? And you'll quickly realize that if you're waiting for ironclad randomized control trial evidence, then you're going to be waiting a long time before you have any effect on anything, right? What other field do we have that anyway, right? So we have a nutrition department with the team, right? They work with players that may need to lose a little weight or gain a little weight or whatever. Is there definitive evidence about how we do that, right? Should they go on a keto diet, a low-carb diet, a high-carb diet, a vegan diet, right? Should we be supporting after they work out? Should we be giving them high carb or low carb? Should we try to get them fat adapted, right? There's a million ideas about how to do that too, right? Just like there's different ideas about the best way to acquire a skill. So demanding this one way to do things, right, I think is unrealistic. We don't do that in any other area at all, in any other discipline within a team as well. So I disagree with that idea. You know, and as I said, I think we have enough evidence, you know, this growing body of evidence in ecological dynamics to think it's a good way to approach it. You know, there's things like, you know, you could say things like the external focus of attention. Oh, there's not ironclad evidence. There's kind of people have challenged that and proved it. But for me, there's enough evidence, right, that we can know that overall that's a good way to do things. Yes, we can have flexibility with that, but I think, you know, in general, moving coaches away from being super technical instructions is a good thing. I think most people would agree with that. So that's something we can try to do. So I think that's my first thought. The second criticism I've seen about a skill acquisition specialist is doesn't that just couldn't a coach just do all that? Like a coach could go online, read a bit about motor learning and skill acquisition, and just do what a skill acquisition specialist does. Obviously, I don't agree that with that. Anyway, I would echo I saw Derek Penchuk respond to this, and I'd echo his comment. If a coach can do what you're doing as a skill acquisition specialist, then you're not doing it correctly, right? So what I'm doing myself with the team, I'm doing way more than just watching practice and giving recommendations for practice design and how many reps and things to do. It's way more than just that. That's part of it. But the way that I like to conceptualize my job is I call myself the connective tissue, right? So I not only talk with the coaches about how to design practice and give them feedback and things like that, but I also talk with the biomechanics people, the analytics people, the strength and conditioning people, the sports science people that are monitoring how much people are running, for example. And all of those, why do I do that? Because all the thing that connects all of those things is skill acquisition, right? We're measuring how much people are running and how much they're sleeping because we want to know how it affects make them get better, i.e. acquire skill, develop their skill. Biomechanics, why do we create biomechanics reports? Because we're trying to improve the skill, right? So we need to think about when we make a biomechanics report, how are we going to use it? How are we going to present it to the player, right? So there's the same with all these other things. So that's the way that I think of my job, is kind of the connective tissue between all these different departments, bringing it all together, breaking down the silos and things like that. The other thing that I bring that coaches, I think coaches would really struggle with that don't have formal training in this area, is I can bring a lot of analyses. I can analyze metrics for learning. I can look at the data and from our practices and evaluate. Is it too easy? Is it too difficult? I can do some nonlinear analyses. I could do I have lots of skills that it would be very difficult for a coach. Some can do it, obviously, but it would take a long time for a coach to acquire kind of this experience in motor learning. So I think there's lots of things you can bring like that, So along with what I've tried to do is, in my job here, is blend kind of doing some specific things. So the specific thing that some of the specific thing, I don't want to get into details about it, well, is different ways to measure learning, different ways to measure performance, and along with some kind of overall general ideas, talking to coaches, talking to players about how they're going to be coached, setting. So I've talked a lot about how you need to kind of create this environment of psychological safety where it's okay to fail, right? So I help do that, right? So I think having a skill acquisition specialist, obviously I'm super biased, but I think it gives this common, we approach the learning problem in a common way, right? It gives us some consistency in how we're going to, train our athletes by having one person kind of oversee it all. It gives us, it makes sure we're all playing from the same page. So one of the first things I did when I came here is I kind of asked, through talking to the coaches and everyone, what is our philosophy on how we train people? So so we have these documents here we call what we believe, WWH documents for all our departments. What we believe, why we believe it, and how we're going to train it, right? So I created one of those for skill acquisition. What we believe is the best way for get people better. For my case, self-organization, guided self-organization. Why we believe it, I have all this evidence I can point to that, I've said many times, I've documented on my website, and how we're going to train it, right? We talk about those things. Right, so obviously, I have had a really enjoyable experience, and I got hired back for another year. So the team must see a benefit in what I'm doing. So I agree with Sean that I think any team would benefit from having. We have expertise in every other sports science, nutrition, sports science, biomechanics. We have all these disciplines. And as I said, I think and strength and conditioning, I think a real strength of a skill acquisition specialist is they can pull all those things together and filter it through how are we going to make the player better, which is the ultimate goal of all those things, right? They all have the same goal, but they're missing a person that knows it. So those are just some of my experiences, I think, and talking about how it leads into game day preparation and all these different things. So those are just some of my random thoughts. As I said, over the next few weeks, I hope to do a few of these kind of riffing episodes while I'm, here in Florida. If anyone has any ideas for things they would like to talk to me about, I might briefly mention some of the papers I'm reading and things about that. That's all I have for now. So thanks for joining me. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Remember, you can contact me at robgray@asu.edu or follow me on Twitter at ShakyWeights. To find out more about the podcast, please check out perceptionaction.com. Finally, to support the podcast and receive bonus materials, including a monthly coaches meetup, please head over to patreon.com/perceptionaction. This is Rob Gray from ASU. Cheers for now, and keep 'em cup. Gone through St. Louis.